Welcome. This is part 3 of reviewing my tarot deck collection. And if you watched part 2, you may be expecting only my Indian Kickstarter decks. But turns out I forgot a couple mass market decks. So let's run through those first. And then we will get into the independent and Kickstarters. So first, have the Barbara Walker Tarot in a tin. I love that it's in a tin. I love the smaller size. I think I would really enjoy these trimmed, like really trimmed, so it's just the image. This isn't a deck that I use a lot, but when I do use it, I really enjoy it. And I think I may just trim it, like really trim it. It's got a very very clear voice. It's easy to read. I don't use this for others. No particular reason. I just don't. But I do like it for myself every now and then, and I think I will trim it. The more I look at it, the more I think it just needs a trim. You know, I don't need the titles and the keywords. So I don't really look at keywords. I have a couple decks that have some, and usually I forget they're there, which is perfect. You know. Next, we have another tin, Sun and Moon Tarot. Now this deck, I really wanted to like. I love that it's in a tin. Love the size, love the backs. But I think the issue for me, I don't like the figures. I don't like that they're so far away and that they don't have features. I mean, that's a great death card, but I just don't use it at all. So this may need to move on. So I may give it another try and see, but I just don't feel called to use it. It doesn't really spark an emotional response for me, which is what I want to feel, you know. So then we have the Halloween Tarot in a tin. This one I really enjoy. So the backs probably needs a trim as well, but I don't mind the borders. This is a deck that I use around Halloween, which for me, Halloween runs from like September to November, because one day and 1 month is not enough. So, you know, I'll use it for a quarter of the year. I really don't use it any other time. But it's a fun deck, you know. It's super cute. And I like it, you know. So it's easy to read. I mean, it's a very simple deck, but in no way does that detract from it, you know. Now we have the Dark Grimoire Tarot. Now, this deck is, the backs. So this is based on Lovecraft, you know, his work. And I adore Lovecraft. I tend not to reach for this deck. I think part of the issue for me is the color palette, and I understand why they chose it, and I don't disagree with the choice, but I gotta move some of these out of the way. I'm surrounded by decks, but it just doesn't, it's not like a standout deck to me. The artwork is beautiful. It really, really is. I think this could be a good deck for around Halloween. So I don't want to get rid of it because I do like it. I just don't use it much. So I think I need to create a space for Halloween decks and kind of group them, because I think otherwise what's happened in the past is I forget about certain decks, and they don't get used. So I think if I keep them together, I'm more likely to use them during that time. And then, you know, I may continue from there with this one. I'm not really sure. But I definitely think in the fall it'll get more use from me. Now we have the Black Tarot. Now this deck, when I first saw it, I was really kind of bowled over. These are the backs. It's a very, very evocative deck. But it's black and white. It requires a bit of time for me to kind of move into each card. Can be not all the cards. Some of the cards are a little harder to pick out the details. But I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful deck. It's very different, and I really enjoy it. And again, this is a kind of, I don't want to say moody deck because that's not quite right, but I have to be in the right mood for the deck. For me, this is a deck that, it requires a certain amount of depth. It requires me to go to a certain depth to get the most out of reading it, which is not a bad thing. But it does require more time than a lot of other decks. More time to spend in each card, and more time to spend within myself. So it's not a deck that I use all the time, but when I do, I get really great readings from it, and I enjoy the process. So it's a beautiful deck, and it's very different. So I do really like this deck. I think it's really good for intuitive work. So next, I don't know, we still have a few more mass markets. Okay. This one is the Osho Zen. I did edge it And this deck and I have a kind of funny relationship. Sometimes I really enjoy it. Sometimes I want nothing to do with it. It just totally depends on my mood. I definitely don't want to get rid of it. It's not a deck that I reach for a lot, but look how beautiful that is. But when I do, I enjoy it. Love this too. This is another deck that kind of goes its own way, and I like that. I don't know, just sometimes I just don't vibe with it. And sometimes I love this card. And sometimes I do. And that's really all there is to it. But I do like it. I'm glad I have it. It's a nice and interesting deck. And now we have Tarot V. Now this deck, this is another theme deck, and as is apparently typical for me, I love the idea. Don't super love the reality. I mean, I don't dislike this deck. I just don't really use it. And I think this is another one that maybe around Halloween it'll get more use. I think I had this last Halloween, but I had a lot going on, so I probably forgot about it. But it's it's a beautiful deck. I like that the images are given basically the full card. And I think that it can be very evocative. I mean, look at that. So I think I just need to give it some time, but I don't think that this is a deck that I'll really use beyond that Halloween time. I mean, maybe if I was, I don't know, in an environment that felt kind of gothic-y and creepy, this could be a great deck. But overall, it's not a, this is a really creepy kind of card. It's kind of silly and kind of creepy. But yeah, so I think I need to give it a good run this Halloween and kind of go from there and see how I feel about it then. But as of now, I'm not reaching for it. But again, I think it needs to be, I need to be in that kind of, Halloween sort of mood to use it. Or to want to use it. And next, we have the Tarot del Toro. And once again, in a beautiful box. Once again, it's basically a theme deck. So the backs. I love the way this cardstock feels. It's so soft and kind of buttery. I love the sound. I don't know. I don't like this as much as I wanted to like it. And unfortunately, I think it's just gonna be the way I feel about, who makes this? Insight Editions. I think that this is how I'll feel about their decks in general. I just kind of feel like I mean, I don't want to say anything against them. It doesn't feel to me as inspired as I would like. That probably sounds awful. And I mean, maybe it was. And I don't want to detract from the work they did, because, I mean, that's a beautiful card, but I don't feel much when I look at these cards. So I really, really wanted to like them and wanted to feel them, and I just don't. And, you know, I mean, that could just be me. I mean, this is a great card, but overall, and the thing is, I don't mind pip decks, but I'm not super keen on these. I'm just not. Love him though. But yeah, overall, and it's such a shame because I love the cardstock. I love to shuffle these, but I don't love to read with them, you know. And I've put them away, taken them back out, put them away, taken them back out, and I keep hoping to like them more, and so far that hasn't happened. So now, yeah, see, this is another Insight Editions, and it's the same kind of problem. So this is the Labyrinth Tarot. Now, when I tell you, I love David Bowie. I love David Bowie. Love Labyrinth. And with this deck, part of my issue, I think, like, look what they did to his face. Don't do that. Why? Look, he was a gorgeous man, and the way he's drawn in this deck does him a disservice, as far as I'm concerned. So these are the backs. And again, we have excuse me, we have these pips that just feel uninspired. And again, maybe they're not, and it's just, you know, I just don't vibe with them. But, and it's the same wonderful cardstock. But I just don't. I love this though, and I think that's great choice for the Chariot, Sir Didymus. But overall, I don't agree with all of their choices, which, I mean, you know, that's, I don't need to agree with them all, you know, but it does create a bit of a clash for me. See, look, that's not okay. So, yeah, I just don't use it, and I want to love it. But I don't. I just don't. I don't want to get rid of it because it is still Labyrinth. And I love that they did the box and the stripes like Toby's pajamas. I think that was really cute. So, I mean, I do feel that a good amount of thought was put into it. I just, you know, maybe I just don't vibe with the art style. Maybe it's as simple as that. Okay, oh my goodness. I think we are done with mass market. So now, let's move on. And I think, for the most part, I've grouped these. They're not really in any order, but I have at least grouped decks by the same creator. So, first, this is the Ashley Cook Tarot. Now, this is our first deck, at least as far as I know. It's a beautiful, beautiful deck. Did I trim it? I don't think so. I definitely edged it. Oh, maybe I didn't. See, I don't even know. I've had this one a while, so I'm not sure. It's possible I trimmed or edged it, or both. I really like this deck. This is a deck that I use for readings with others. I use for myself. And I really like it. And I don't normally like, I can't think of the word, this style of deck, this art style, but I do in this case, and I think there are a few others, but I just really like it. I get very drawn in, and I think it's a great deck. So, and the cardstock is really nice. It shuffles beautifully, and it gives some really powerful readings. So this deck is definitely not going anywhere. And she, I think pretty recently, released a new deck, which is the Bluestone Tarot. Designed in Scotland. So now this deck, look at the backs, is, you know, that same kind of art style. It has a very different, actually, let me pull these back out just for a second. So you can see the kind of, it just has a very different energy, you know? And I feel like this one is a kind of healing, soothing, cleansing kind of energy. Whereas this one is more it's just all, it's like, to me, it's like fire and thinking, right? Whereas this one is like water and feeling. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but that's kind of how I feel about it. And I'm sure the borders play a big part, but this is a lovely deck. Again, look at that sun. I really enjoy it. I enjoy her art. I like the imagery, the symbols she's brought in. I just really enjoy this deck. And yeah, I was really excited to see this pop up in my Etsy notifications. So yeah, love it. So that's the Bluestone Tarot by Ashley Cook. Next, the Mythical Creatures Tarot. Now this is just, it's a work of art, 100%. To the backs. This is such a beautiful deck. The cardstock is so yummy. I love the creatures. I love the artwork. To me, one of the interesting things about this deck is in a way, it's like it's very detailed, but by the same token, it's very limited in space. But it somehow manages, for me, to create a world beyond what you can see in the card. Wow, that probably makes no sense to anybody. It's like this hint of this world is so powerful that it pulls me through to more that's not shown. That probably makes no sense too. I love this deck. Love it, love it, love it. I will use it for other people. I use it for myself. Reads beautifully. And it's a pleasure to shuffle, to use. I find it to be very immersive. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. And I love it. I really, really love it. So, there you are with that. And next, so I have two decks, the same deck, but they're different versions. So they're not exactly the same. So I have Journey of the Sacred Bee. So we have, I think this is the first edition, and this one's the second. There are minor differences. It's not huge, but I love this deck so much. I really wanted to get both. I tried to hold back a little bit, but I couldn't. So, just so you see, now this is the first edition, and this is the second. I mean, they're different sizes. So the first edition was a little bigger, a little taller, a little wider. You can see maybe better like that. So I'm just gonna kind of quickly go through each. They're not in order, so I'm not even gonna attempt to order them and show them one by one. But if you want that, if you want a comparison between the two decks, you can just let me know in the comments, and I'm happy to do that. This is such an incredible deck. Everything that I love. If I were to make a tarot deck, this is the cardstock I would want to use. The gilding is gorgeous. I love the foiling, embossing. But the images are just absolutely incredible. And I just love it. And this deck brings me it brings me just a feeling of peace and comfort and joy. You know, it really doesn't matter what the reading is. It's just the overall feeling this deck brings. And I absolutely love it. And it's one of my favorite decks. And this is a deck, if I'm in a less than positive mood, this deck lifts it big time. So just really quickly, so you can see. I mean, it sounds so nice too. So it's just absolutely beautiful. And I really love it. And I kind of, use the first edition more. I think because, because I had already bonded with it by the time I got that one. But every so often I like to change it up a little bit and use this one. And I don't use this to read for other people. And I don't really know why. I mean, I would, but I think I just don't think about it for other people. And I think that's the kind of greedy thing for me. Like, I just want to keep it to myself. But it's a fabulous deck. It's an easy read, and it's really joyful. So I absolutely love it. And I do have the Oracle deck, and that's when I got the second edition of the tarot. I got them at the same time on Kickstarter. Okay, so next, just kind of checking the time. We have the Tarot de St. Croix. I love this deck. Now, she has since released a version that is borderless. I may need to pick that up, but I actually really like the borders on this. I love the orange. The only thing is, I think that the borderless, I mean, it's more of the image. So I may need to get another copy. I really do try to limit that. But I love this deck. I really love it. But I love it with the orange. But I'm sure I'd love it borderless too. But this is just a deck that, this is another deck that I find very joyful. It's got a very strong energy, but not in a bad way. It's got a powerful energy to me. I really, really love it. So sometimes I use it on other people. Probably not as much as I should, because I think this is such a great deck, and I think a lot of people would respond to it. In fact, I have an event coming up. I may have to put this aside and make sure I bring it, because I think it would be really well received. And I love this image. I mean, to me, this is so powerful. Yeah, I think it's a fab, except the stinking, that's what I'm talking about. It's just, Oh, if you didn't see my previous video, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. My point was, I mentioned how, I have so many decks, and stinking Three of Swords is so often, too often, Three Swords stuck in a heart. And even when the deck, goes in different directions for other cards, it's just, I don't know. I hate that. But anyway, yeah, and those are the backs. But I love this deck. I'm willing to overlook the Three of Swords. But I do get really excited when I find a deck that does not use that image. It's really, to me, very boring. Now this is the Moonlight Tarot. This is a wonderful deck. This is a really interesting deck. Fabulous buttery cardstock. I love it. All the images are beautiful, but there's some that just, oh man, look at that tower. And it's like, I just want to go there. This is just, and I love that it's very long and thin. So again, I'm pretty sure that's a standard tarot size. So it's thinner and it is taller. And I really like this size. I think it works nicely. And I like the borders. So the backs. This is not a deck that I've used for anyone else. And, you know, I think it's just, so, okay, here. This is a little different. It still has that heart, but it's at least going somewhere else. But, I really enjoy it. And I absolutely would use this to read for others. I just haven't. I think it's just I have so many decks. I just haven't gotten around to this one yet. But love that Hermit. It's just a really, really nice deck. It's easy to read. It's easy to feel. You know, love this too. But yeah, I think it's a great deck. So next we have a deck that, so the name of this deck, some people don't care for. I think it's a misnomer because the subject matter is not what the name implies. So this is the Ritual Abuse Tarot. It's got nothing to do with ritual abuse. The creator was inspired by Tales We Tell in the Dark. If depending on your age, if you remember those. And this is that art style. So I call it tarot to read in the dark. And I love this deck. And so here's a black and white that I really enjoy. The black and whiteness doesn't bother me. There's a lot of white space, so that makes it easier. This is a deck that I do actually use all the time. So even though it's, you know, kind of got spooky vibes, I don't feel the need to wait for Halloween for this one. I enjoy this a lot. I don't use this for others, but I think I would, but for others I might wait for Halloween time, or, you know, if somebody wanted, you know, kind of creepy thing, this could be good for that. But it's really, look at that. It's just, I love this, and it feels nice. It's, it was either make playing cards or, you know, it's one of those. There's like 3, I think, that I've purchased from. What are the other 2? I never remember. Game Crafter is one, and there's one more. So I'm not sure which place this one came from, but the cardstock is really nice. It's very evocative, and it's very different, and I like that. And I think it's a great deck. So just, you know, if the name bothers you, just ignore it, because again, there's nothing in the cards to hint to ritual abuse, as far as I'm concerned. Well, you know, that's a great card. You just gotta kind of, I don't know, see what you like. But I love the backs. So this is, this is one of the very few black and white decks that I really completely love, and I think black and white is perfect for it. I wouldn't want this one in color. So And now let's do the Wooden Tarot. Now this deck has, of course, been around for a while. Love the backs. This is another one that, I don't really use for others, but maybe I should. I don't know. The images are very clean, and I don't really want to say simple, because that's not, but, they're compact. That's not probably the word either. But there's not a lot going on to distract, but there's also not a lot going on to pull you in. To me, the images do enough. I don't need extra stuff in this deck. But I don't know. I think that if I use this with other people, I would use it in combination with another deck, and maybe only use 1 or 2 cards from this deck. I love that, though. I don't know. I think that generally, when I read for others, I like to present more of a of a visual not quite an overload. That's probably not the right word, but I want them to have a lot to see and absorb, and I don't know that this on its own would create the kind of feel that I want to create when I do readings for others. So, yeah. Alright. Now, these are 2 different decks by the same person. These are 2 of my favorite decks. This is the Ellis Deck. So we'll do this first. This came out first. This is such a great deck. I love the backs. Now, if I hear people talk all the time about, is the back reversible, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, it's different, right, on each side, but to me, it doesn't matter. I don't, it's not like when I draw a card, I'm not looking to say, that one's reversed, I don't want to pick it. Like, that's not how I use the cards. So I love the backs exactly like that. Love the gilding. It's super pretty. And the cards are just incredible. Absolutely beautiful. This is a deck that I use for other people. Still, come on. But it's okay, because it's really a wonderful deck. I love the colors. I love the line work. Love this. It's just a fabulous, fabulous deck. And, it just reads so beautifully. I don't know why I'm so crooked. The cards just really work together, like they speak together so well. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but it makes sense to me. I just feel like when I use this deck, it's like an effortless construction of a sentence, of a paragraph, of a world. It just has such a great energy and a great flow. I wish I could describe it better, but I love this deck so much. It's got so much detail, and it's just absolutely beautiful and evocative, and it's a delight. It's a delight to use and to read. Look at that death card. It's just, and the star. You see the phoenix? It's just wonderful. I will never get rid of this deck. In fact, at one point, he had like a jumbo version, and I missed it. And I was so sad. I hope he releases it again. So if you happen to have the jumbo version, I think there were plastic cards of this deck, you want to get rid of it, you just let me know. I will happily take it off your hands. Because yeah, it's one of my favorite decks. And then we have the Tarot of the Starbound Phantasia. And this is his newest deck. And it's again just absolutely exquisite. So this time they are totally reversible. It's got, again, and this type of gilding doesn't seem to chip or anything. You know, they're nice, and cards are super flexible. Really great cardstock, really nice to use. And again, the imagery is just incredible. I love this deck so much. This is, again, one of my favorites. Sometimes it's hard to pick which one I want to use, because I really love them both so much. And they do kind of both have the same sort of energy. So if I'm feeling pulled toward one, I'm probably feeling pulled toward both, but not always. Look at this. I just love that. Love this too. It's just a great deck. There's so much. This is so beautiful. There's so much thought, I think, put into this deck. And it's absolutely wonderful. And again, look at that. It just, I could get lost. I could go through these cards all day long, and not get bored. They're just so beautiful and wonderful. And I am a huge fan, in case you can't tell. So maybe he'll come out with like a jumbo plastic version of both decks. That would be amazing. And I would pick them both up. But yeah, love the deck. Alright, so this is getting a little long. Let's do one more, and then I'm gonna need at least one more episode, because we have quite a few more decks to go. This is the Dreamkeepers Tarot. Now, this is available in mass market, but this was the indie version. So I'm not sure, honestly, what, if any, differences there are. But this is the one I have. I love these backs. And again, they're not reversible, but I don't notice. I don't care. I did edge it. And this is such a dreamy, lovely deck. I really enjoy it. I don't use it as much as I used to. I used the heck out of it for a long time, and then I set it aside for a while. Not set it aside like I was going to get rid of it, but just, other decks came in, and then I kind of binged with it again. It's just a beautiful, beautiful deck. Very, very dreamy, as the name would lead you to believe. Look at that. Look at that. It's a fabulous deck. I really enjoy working with it. I enjoy looking at it. I love this card too. It's just wonderful. And it's absolutely going nowhere. And I'm really, really happy. Look at that I have it. And yeah, the stinking heart with the swords, but I still love it. So, I don't hold it against the deck if they use that for the Three of Swords, but I get really excited when I find a deck that doesn't do that. So, I think we'll leave it here for now. And I hope you enjoyed. I hope you maybe were inspired by some decks, or moved by some decks. Perhaps you found that new deck for you, or perhaps you rediscovered a deck that you already have. Sometimes, especially if you have a lot of decks, you might kind of forget about a deck until you see it somewhere else, right? And then that can renew that spark, that interest. And if you enjoyed this at all, I hope that you like, share, and subscribe. Again, this is a new channel, and every single one counts. And of course, you count. You always count, because you're wonderful and special. So be good to yourself, because you deserve it. Until next time.